vacation movie or?
Yeah,
Be official.
you're going to be a big star.
In Australia. Oh, wow.
Big star.
So next time I'm coming to Australia, everyone's he's here, he's here. Everyone's waiting up for you in the airport. Yeah.
Johnny, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of space. I know it's close to Sebastian, but don't worry.
Thank you.
He's my best friend, so I can make this better. So, yes, so I've got a little Dutch treat for you. Stroke baffles to get your sugar level right again. So take a pay attention for the second part of the tour. And don't worry, I've got 2 packages, so enough for everybody, so you don't have to fight over it. I learned that the hard way. But take one and share it around.
The entire thing?
Yeah, no, well, not the entire thing.
Oh, no.
The entire thing.
Yeah, then you have to share again.
Could you hand me one? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh. Sweet. I know why they are fighting for it.
Yeah.
It's good.
So yeah, and if you like them, don't buy them in the tourist bakery stores. Buy them in the grocery stores because they're the same, but a lot cheaper. And the same goes for the cheese. Just buy in the grocery stores because there's actually cheese that we eat, and again, a lot cheaper.
They have it in Willie's, but it's not as good as this, obviously.
Now the other packets are still floating around. Everybody has one.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody's good. Yeah, come on, you can. Yes. So yes, on this stop, I want to talk to you about a golden age. Because at one point, this small fisherman town grew out to be the biggest, richest, most influential city in the whole world, and now we're talking about a 70th century, a golden age. Other people, especially the British, like to call it a 50 minutes of fame, but we're proud of it because we're ruling over the 7 world seas. And I've got here a world map and all the red dots we're trading with. What I know with the 21st century eyes, it doesn't look that special. But remember, we didn't have planes yet, everything was on ships, and also not everything was discovered yet. So the exclusive rights to trade with Japan, Indonesia was a colony, when India, South Africa, South America, North America, even this red dot up here is not a mistake because we had a trading post up there, we're whale hunting. But before the 17th century, only within Europe. And actually Spain was going to South America, and Portugal was going to Asia. And those endeavors were very lucrative. So the Dutch also wanted to have a piece of the cake or the cookie. But they wanted a problem. They didn't know how to get to Asia. They didn't have any maps. But remember all the persecuted Jews from Spain and Portugal that were welcomed in with open arms? Well, they were also told, some of you need to go back and steal us some maps. So 3 Portuguese Jews went back, and it took them a couple of months, but after a couple of months they got hold of some maps, so they came back to the Netherlands. And now finally the Dutch could go to Asia. And they did, and it was a big disaster. It took them 3.5 years, so they were 2 years too late. 75% of the crew died, and they only brought back 2 bags of pepper. Well, I know pepper was expensive back then, but not that expensive. We still have a Dutch saying, for example, if you want to buy some really expensive shoes, you say, oh, those shoes are peperduur, those shoes are pepperly expensive. So yeah, the first mission was a little bit of a disaster, but the Dutch went on with it, got a little bit better at it, but they still need to come up and find a new way to do it. Because they did it the same way as the Spaniards and the Portuguese. Just go with 3 ships, load them up, and come back. But if you lose one ship doing shipwrecks or something else, the 2 other ships will not make up the cost. So as a merchant, you will go bankrupt. But for Spain and Portugal, that was okay, because they had a sugar daddy. They had a king that financed all the trips. But yeah, in the Netherlands, we just got rid of our king, so we didn't have a sugar daddy anymore. We only had our merchants, and for them the risk was way too high. So we need to come up with a new way, and we did, and it revolutionized the whole economy. And still nowadays, because we found a small company called the VOC, or the East India Trading Company. Well, the British also had one, but they copied it from us. And what's so special about this company? It was the first limited company in the whole world. It was the first company that traded stocks. So actually Amsterdam was also the first city with a stock exchange. So all the terms for short selling, naked selling, future selling, all comes to 7th century Amsterdam. And the stocks were only sold to the merchants, they were sold to everybody. Actually one of the first stocks in the whole world was sold to a regular household here in Amsterdam. So really everybody joined in. And after 4 years, it's not enough time to go to Asia, but instead of going with 3 ships, they decide to go with 100 ships. Because if you now lose 1 or 2 ships, you still have still the 99 or the 98 to cover all the cost. I remember, this is also the time of Johnny Depp, the time of the pirates. And with 100 ships, you're a lot safer than just with 3 ships. Well, the first endeavor was a massive success. In a short time, Amsterdam grew out to be the richest city in the whole world. It was 4 times richer than Paris. And Paris was the 2nd richest city in the whole world. And the money was the only fuel to the merchants, the fuel to everybody, because everybody had stuff. And the annual return of investment back then was 20% a year. And I don't know if people nowadays are stuck, but now you have it with 3-4%. But back then, every year 20%. So Amsterdam was also the first society with a middle class that was starting to buy goods that you actually didn't need it. What modern capitalism is all about, right? Buying goods that you actually don't need. Well, this company grew so big that at one point employed over more than 2 million sailors around the world, and the Netherlands only had 1.5 million inhabitants, so we had more sailors than inhabitants. So do you see now why we need those secondary services in the red light district? Because there were so many sailors all the time in Amsterdam. And of course that many sailors also means you need a lot of ships. So we had more ships than the French, the British, the Spanish, the Portuguese combined, with by far the most ships in the world. And if you would follow this company nowadays, it would be worth 7.5 trillion euros. So more than 8 times bigger than Apple. And Apple is quite big, right? Well, the building that you sort of see over there, if you're going to walk further, you can see better with the white and yellow stripes, used to be the headquarters of the East Indian Trading Company. So that's where the captains will come in to be sent out on new missions. And one of the new missions was to find a new way to India, because they always went like this, and it took them 2 years. And they thought, well, if we go the other way around, it will be much shorter. Well, nowadays we know better, but back then they still thought, well, let's try it out. So they hired a British guy called Henry Hudson to sail to the west, and of course he didn't find India, no, he bumped up in North America. And he thought, well, I mean, anyways, so let's start a trading post. So he founded New Amsterdam, and New Amsterdam was based on the same principles as Old Amsterdam, of free trade, freedom of religion, and tolerance. And it was doing okay. It was small, it was trading beaver pelts with the local Indians. And at the beginning we always won the wars against the British. We even sailed up the Thames. But at one point we started to lose them, and we need to sell New Amsterdam. And they bought it from us, and they renamed it to New York. And New York is now the capital of modern capitalism, but it's just because it was founded by people from Amsterdam. No, that's a little bit far-fetched. But you can still see the influence of Amsterdam in New York. I don't know, some of you been in New York? Yes? Well, let's, for example, let's say this Manhattan is really organized, it's American grid system, but when you reach the southern tip, it suddenly gets all messy. And that's actually the old Dutch trading post. Wall Street used to be the wall. Broadway comes from the Dutch word breed, and it's even a canal street because it used to be a canal. But the British knew what to do with it, so they just filled it up. But you can really see the influence in all the names, because every borough, except for Queens, is named after the suburb of Amsterdam. Haarlem is named after Haarlem, suburb in the west. Brooklyn is named after Breukelen, suburb in the south. And even the Bronx is named after the Dutch landowner, the Lord Bronx, who used to live up north of Amsterdam. And there's also something else funny with the names, because the first settlers had very simple Dutch fisherman names, like Jan and Kees. And if you use a little bit of imagination, Jan and Kees morphed into Jan Kees, the Yankees. The New York nicknames are actually 2 simple Dutch fisherman names. And maybe you should now thank the British people in our group, because if it wasn't for them, we'd all be talking Dutch right now. And believe me, talking English is way better than talking Dutch, right? Yes, well, yeah. Well, I've also got people from Australia, and I only tell the story when I got people from Australia. And because there was one time a mapping and discovery mission for us in this part of the world, and that guy discovered parts of Indonesia, then he went to Tasmania, then he discovered New Zealand, so that's why it's named as the province of the Netherlands, Zealand. Then this island up here and this island up here, so discovered everything surrounding Australia except for Australia. Well, actually landed on it, and he thought this is nothing, so left immediately, and 10 years later the British came. So that's why I'm also talking English right now. Well, and on this topic I only talked about the good and the glory that we did in a golden age, but we also need to remember that we did some bad and wrong stuff. For example, we're one of the last countries to abolish the slaves in the world. We also need to remember that about history. Not only the good side, but especially also the bad side of it. But for my next stop, I want to tell you a story about the Second World War in Amsterdam. So let's continue.